On the first day of the temporary ban on short selling, South Korean stocks were sharply up on Monday. Trading on the secondary Kosdaq had to be halted for a moment for the first time in more than 3 years. A homegrown air taxi has successfully made its test flight. That's open to the public for the first time, paving the way for more tests to come in urban skies starting next year. With this, Korea gains momentum for its ambitious urban air mobility project. San Diego Padres Kim Ha-seong wins the MLB Golden Glove for his defensive versatility, becoming the first Korean player to win that title. It's November 6, 2023. This is News Center. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon Jung-min. On the first day of the temporary ban on short selling, South Korean stocks were sharply up today, with Kospi surging well over 5% and Kosdaq more than 7%. Trading on the Kosdaq had to be halted for a moment in the morning. Our economics correspondent Lee Soo-jin stirs us off.
South Korean stocks jumped on Monday, the first day that the country temporarily banned short selling. According to the Korea Exchange, South Korea's benchmark index, the Kospi closed up 5.66%, while the secondary Kosdaq market rose 7.34%. This comes after the Financial Services Commission announced on Sunday it would impose a short-selling ban from Monday until at least June next year to prevent further massive losses by retail investors. And the upward trend was witnessed from the opening bell. The Korea Exchange said a sidecar limit was activated at 9:57 a.m. for 5 minutes when the Kosdaq 150 futures soared 6.02% from its previous close, and the Kosdaq 150 index jumped 7.3%. A sidecar limit is a trading curve that is activated when there is a rise of more than 6% compared to the previous close on the Kosdaq 150 futures, and when the Kosdaq 150 index rises 3% for more than a minute. This is the first time in 3.5 years that the sidecar has been activated. The gain was especially prominent in technology stocks, with secondary battery shares of EcoPro BM and EcoPro closing up 30% and 29% each. While this was largely owed to expectations that volatility in battery stocks would be lowered, it is uncertain how long this will last.
There is no guarantee that they will continue to rise in the long run. Those stocks rose because they're currently sensitive to government policies and changes in the market. It's also because the situation has changed quite suddenly.
The surge seen on Monday was also largely led by foreign investors. Unlike domestic institutions and retail individual investors who turned net sellers after the ban was announced, foreign investors bought local stocks. However, in the medium to long term, foreign investors may also turn into net sellers.
It hasn't even been a day yet, so this can't exactly be seen as a pattern. As of now, you can say that there are foreigners who expect stocks to go up, but who knows what will happen as time passes.
The expert added that investors need to continue using fundamental analyses to see which stocks and investors the short-selling ban will impact. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
The major reasons that the Korean financial authorities had to put a temporary ban on stock short selling are illegal market practices by global investment banks. Correspondent Moon Hae-ryun takes a look at the effects and concerns of this break on the market.
Starting Monday, short selling is banned for all stocks listed on South Korea's stock markets until the end of June 2024. Short selling is when investors trade with borrowed shares in the hope that the price will fall later, so they can buy them back at a lower price and pocket the price difference. The ban comes following a report in mid-October that found 2 international investment banks engaging in naked short selling, which was cited by the Financial Services Commission in a press briefing as a reason for the ban. It also cited economic uncertainty such as the Israel-Hamas conflict, as well as the need to level the playing field for retail investors against large institutional investors. Following the ban, shares on the tech-heavy Kosdaq jumped by over 6% on Tuesday, prompting the activation of the Kosdaq sidecar curbs for the first time in nearly 3 years and a half. One expert had this to say about how the ban could affect the stock market.
It looks as though individual investors' funds are flowing into the market, which is leading to this rise, but it's difficult to predict how long this will last.
This is the fourth time that the country has banned short selling, but the first that financial authorities have ever suspended it without a worldwide financial crisis, such as the global financial crisis in 2008 or the COVID-19 pandemic. There are concerns about the possible ramifications of this unusual situation on the market in the future. The domestic short-selling market is also dominated largely by foreign investors, with the ratio of individual to institutional and foreign investors being at 2:98. As a result, it's expected that the ban will affect foreign investments in South Korean stocks.
There's a possibility that as institutions and foreign investors are unable to short sell, they also won't be able to keep up the same proportion of going long and therefore damage the soundness of the financial market.
As watchers remain wary, the FSC seeks to improve related rules and systems during the 8-month ban. The Commission said it will decide whether to resume short sales in consideration of its improvements. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
Israel says the Gaza Strip has been divided into two separate parts, North Gaza and South Gaza. Also, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has crossed out chances of a ceasefire until all hostages return home. Lee Seung-jae has the latest.
The Israel Defense Forces said Sunday that it had fully surrounded Gaza City and split Gaza into two. According to IDF spokesperson Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, the Gaza Strip is now split into North Gaza and South Gaza, adding that there are now widespread strikes on terror infrastructure below ground and above it. Hagari called the encirclement of Gaza City a significant stage in the war between Israeli forces and Hamas militants, as it's now able to pinpoint operations deeper within Gaza. Despite international calls for a humanitarian ceasefire, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reiterated on Sunday that there will be no ceasefire until all hostages are returned first.
I want you to know that there's one thing that we won't do. There won't be a ceasefire without the return of our hostages. Take it completely out of the lexicon. We say it to our enemies and to our friends, and we'll simply carry on until we win. We don't have an alternative.
Meanwhile, Iran warned Sunday that the U.S. will be hit hard if there is no ceasefire. According to the Iranian defense minister, Tehran's message to the Americans was to immediately stop the war in Gaza and implement a ceasefire without further elaborating on the repercussions. Iran considers the U.S. to be militarily involved in the armed conflict. The White House, on the other hand, says hostage negotiations are taking place and added that fighting may be paused to ensure their safe movement. Speaking to CBS on Sunday, Deputy National Security Advisor Jonathan Feiner said negotiations are taking place quietly behind the scenes and that Washington believes there is an opportunity to release a significant number of hostages. When asked if Israel would agree to a ceasefire, Feiner added that the U.S. will work hard to make it happen. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Over the weekend, North Korea designated next Saturday as Missile Industry Day, and South Korea's military remains alert as the regime could try another spy satellite launch attempt on that day. Bae Eun-ji has the details.
The South Korean military says it's keeping an eye on a possible third attempt by North Korea to launch its military satellite on November 18th. Which Pyongyang has designated as Missile Industry Day to commemorate last year's successful test launch of its Ha-seong 17 ICBM.
North Korea has designated so-called Industry Day several times before, so we are closely monitoring and tracking the situation, taking various possibilities into account, including a possible provocation on one of those anniversaries.
The Joint Chiefs of Staff added that intelligence authorities of South Korea and the U.S. have been closely coordinating on the matter. Meanwhile, one expert noted that South Korea is also scheduled to send its own military spy satellite from Vandenberg Air Force Base in California, with the help from Elon Musk's SpaceX on November 30th, and explained that this makes it risky for the North.
If North Korea makes an attempt to send its satellite, whether it be on November 18th or any time up through November 30th, and it doesn't succeed, then they could very likely be upstaged by South Korea.
But he added that North Korea will likely carry out a launch at some point, presumably before the end of the year. The North has failed twice in recent months to put a spy satellite into orbit. Immediately after it failed in its second attempt in August, Pyongyang announced that it would make a third attempt in October, but even into November, still hasn't attempted a third launch. North Korea's satellite launch is seen as a disguised test of ballistic missile technology and is considered a violation of multiple UN Security Council resolutions. 배은지, Arirang News.
As part of a follow-up to the Camp David summit, South Korea, the U.S., and Japan will launch a high-level consultative group on countering North Korean cyber activities that fund the regime's nuclear weapons and missile development programs. According to Seoul's presidential office on Monday, the decision comes after Second Deputy National Security Advisor In Sung-hwan met with his U.S. and Japanese counterparts last Tuesday. Under this framework, there will be quarterly meetings on this topic. A UN Security Council report says North Korea has conducted illegal cyber activities to gain funds, including cryptocurrency theft, stealing its largest amount ever last year. An air taxi has successfully made its test flight in the southern coastal county of Gohung in Jeollanam-do province, which was open to the public for the very first time. This is paving the way for more tests to come in urban skies starting next year as part of Korea's urban air mobility project using domestic technology. Our business correspondent Shin Ha-young was there.
This air taxi takes off vertically from its vertiport and flies for about 5 minutes without carrying a person. Developed by the Korea Aerospace Research Institute and domestic firms, the KUAM OPUP can carry one person and fly at a speed of up to 240 kilometers per hour, generating less noise compared to a helicopter. It was the first public demonstration of the aircraft following a test run with a smaller size model 2 years ago. The demonstration was in line with the first stage of the Korean UAM demonstration project, known as the KUAM Grand Challenge, which kicked off in August to test the safety of urban air mobility aircraft as well as related infrastructure ahead of commercialization. Along with the flight demonstration in Gohung, Jeollanam-do province, a vertiport, passenger terminal, traffic management system, and AI-based control tower were all unveiled, showcasing their safety and integrated operational capabilities.
The government will refine regulations tailored for UAM to create an environment where firms and researchers can develop technology without a hitch. I hope we can work together towards opening the urban sky by 2025.
In October, the Transport Ministry announced that the UAM Act had been given the green light at a plenary session of the National Assembly. This enactment lays down the groundwork for companies to actively develop technology and test out new services without being shackled down by the existing aviation laws.
Aviation regulations are extensive and strict, but electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft don't require the same level of standards. So, for UAM, we've excluded unnecessary existing rules, except those related to safety, although even some of those could be relaxed.
He added that the government plans to expand the use of UAM from transportation services to logistics, emergency care, and firefighting services. Companies that have demonstrated the safety of their technologies in the first stage of the KUAM Grand Challenge will move on to the second stage, which will take place in metropolitan area from next July for about a year. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News, Gohung.
To improve commuting for people living outside of Seoul, the government is expediting the opening of GTX lines to the capital, with the first GTX-A from Dongtan Station to Suseol Station set to open next March. The announcement came as President Yoon Suk-yeol visited the GTX-A construction site, which connects Ha-seong City's Dongtan, about 30 kilometers south of the capital, to Suso in Seoul's Gangnam-gu district. Noting this commute will be around 19 minutes when the line opens, Yoon said more lines will be opened faster, making Seoul reachable in 30 minutes from anywhere in the greater capital region. He added this will create economic opportunities as more people will be open to living outside of Seoul. The president said his government will ensure fares on these commuter trains will remain affordable. Over at the National Assembly, ruling and opposition parties alike are gearing up for the upcoming general election, now some 5 months away, as both the PPP and the main opposition DP put forth details on their election preparation committees on the same day. Our political correspondent Kim Jong-sil reports.
The ruling People Power Party officially launched a special committee on Monday that will be in charge of the so-called New City project, which aims to incorporate South Korea's northwestern Gimpo and other satellite cities around the metropolitan area into Seoul. Gimpo is currently part of Gyeonggi-do province, but with a growing population, the city may face division into two, as in North Gyeonggi and South Gyeonggi-do provinces. But the Gimpo City Council says it wants to be part of Seoul instead.
If we take into consideration that citizens of Gimpo already commute, live and enjoy cultural life in Seoul, it makes sense to match where they live to the appropriate administrative area.
However, the main opposition Democratic Party has heavily criticized the move, calling it a political tactic by the ruling party to bolster voter support ahead of the general election. Both the ruling and the main opposition parties also gave details on their general election planning committees the same day, with members including women and young people. They'll be in charge of preparing for next year's general election by coming up with tactics and strategies.
This election, as everyone knows, is more than a party issue. It's a watershed election that will determine the fate of our country. We will do our best to guard against any arrogance that may exist within us.
Meanwhile, the opposition Justice Party's leader Lee Jeong-mi, as well as party leadership, resigned en masse, with Lee saying the decision was made to further solidify and expand the party. The Justice Party will now likely face next year's election by forging a political coalition with other third-party forces such as the Labour Party or the Green Party. Lawmakers across the parties have put their game faces on, with the general election coming up in about 150 days. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
G-Dragon, the leader of the K-pop group BIGBANG, appeared for his first police questioning on Monday over allegations of illegal drug use. Before entering the Incheon Metropolitan Police Agency, the 35-year-old singer, whose real name is Kwon Ji-young, told reporters that he did not commit any drug-related crimes and came to make that clear. The police will conduct a reagent drug test on Kwon and send his urine and hair samples to the National Forensic Service for detailed analysis. Last month, Kwon was booked for investigation on suspected drug use, which he's continuously denying. On the cultural front, K-pop artists won 3 trophies at this year's MTV Europe Music Awards, also known as the EMAs. BTS member Jungkook clinched Best K-pop and Best Song for his solo debut track 7, becoming the first Korean solo artist to win 2 awards at a single EMA. Boy group TXT was named Best Push or Best Breakthrough Artist. The winners were announced on the EMA website on Sunday, as the awards ceremony was canceled for the first time in 30 years due to the, quote, devastating events in Israel and Gaza. And time now to take a look at what's been happening in the world of sports. That means we have our sports editor, Paul Need, joining us in the studio. Hello, Paul.
Hello there.
Let's first start with baseball. Kim Ha-seong has won something that no Korean has ever done before.
Yes, that's right. The MLB Golden Glove, basically an award for defensive players in the league. There have been Korean nominees before. Chu Shin-soo was nominated in 2012, but Kim's the first to actually win it. The San Diego Padres Padres star was nominated at shortstop last year, but this year he wins for the utility spot, basically a player who can play in more than one defensive position. He was also nominated for second base, but the winners are decided via a vote by the 30 MLB managers as well as some coaches. Those votes account for 75% and the remaining 25% from the American Baseball Research Defensive Index. Kim won the award thanks to his defensive versatility and because he's among the best in terms of outs above average. Meanwhile, the World Series concluded on Friday with the Texas Rangers winning their first ever title.
Great stuff. And sticking with baseball, the KBO Korean Series gets underway this week. Who is involved?
Yes, it starts tomorrow, and KT Wiz, they are through to the Korean Series. They beat the NC Dinos in the playoffs to make it that far. They'll play the LG Twins, who won the KBO regular season, of course. And this comes after a 3-2 win for KT Wiz on Sunday over the NC Dinos in Game 5 of the playoffs. It was an incredible comeback as well, with NC winning the first two matches, but KT then won 3-0, 11-2 and then 3-2 to seal their place in the Korean Series, which begins on Tuesday, weather permitting, of course. That will start at 6:30 p.m. at Jamsil Baseball Stadium in Seoul. KT Wiz are in the Korean Series for the second time in their short history. They actually won it in 2021. The Twins, though, are looking for a first win since 1994. A best-of-7 series will crown the winner.
All right, and moving on to football. There was a long-awaited Korean FA Cup win for Pohang Steelers.
Yeah, that's right. Again, 2013 was what Pohang were hoping for heading into the final. Well, history did indeed repeat itself as Pohang Steelers, just like they did 10 years ago, beat Jeonbuk to win the FA Cup. This time, though, it was at home at the Pohang Steelyard, with Pohang winning 4-2. Kim Sung-dae and Shin Kwang-hoon both started in the game and both played in that 2013 final. It was Pohang's first trophy in 10 years and their fifth FA Cup win overall. That puts them level with Suwon Blue Wings and Jeonbuk for the most titles. But on Saturday afternoon, Pohang actually came back from behind twice to win from 1-0 and 2-1 down. But superb goals from Zeka, Han Chani, Kim Jong-woo and Hong Yun-san won it for the K-League Giants. The K-League season still has 3 games to go, and Pohang are also involved in the Asian Champions League with 3 group stage games to go in that competition as well.
Let's talk about short track speed skating. Gold and silver for South Korea at the ISU 4 continents.
Yes, gold in the men's relay team in the 5,000 metres and silver for the women in the 3,000 metre relay. And in Canada, in Quebec, the men's team of Park Ji-won, Kim Gun-woo, Lee Jung-min and Jang Sung-woo finished with a time of 7 minutes 13.143 seconds. The women's team of Lee So-yeon, Park Ji-won, Park Ji-yoon and Shim So-ki finished with a time of 4 minutes 14.567 seconds. There were also individual awards as well. Park Ji-won defended the men's 1500 metre title, winning the gold, and also won silver in the 1,000 metres.
And finally to tennis, Novak Djokovic. His incredible career got even better.
Yeah, a true icon of the sport. He's now the first person to win 40 Masters ATP 1000 titles. The 40th came on Sunday at the Paris Masters, beating Grigor Dimitrov 6-4, 6-3. The win also means that he has increased his lead over Carlos Alcaraz, which increases his chances of ending the year as the highest-ranked player for a record-extending 8th time. It was his 7th Paris Masters title overall.
All right. Paul Lee, our sports editor. Nice roundup. See you next week.
Thank you. See you.
The first cold wave of the season will be seen with cold wave alerts in place for central regions. Tomorrow morning temperatures will plummet significantly. Seoul will see lows plunging to single figures at 3 degrees Celsius. This is about 13 degrees lower than today. Other regions such as Daegwallyeong and Yeongju will also see a huge plunge in the readings. Keep in mind that due to frigid wind chills, sensible temperatures will be in the negative territory. Showers will be coming and going until tomorrow dawn. Gangwon-do province will see 5 to 30 millimeters. The Seoul metropolitan area and Gyeongsang-buk-do province can expect about 5 to 20. Strong winds are in the forecast for most regions. In the regions, including here in Seoul, have strong wind advisories in place tonight. For the coastlines of Gangwon-do province and the west coast, where warnings are issued, winds will be especially violent, gusting as fast as 30 meters per second. Cold mornings are expected for most inland regions tomorrow. Seoul will be starting off at 3 degrees, Daegu at 8 degrees Celsius. Highs in Seoul will get up to 10 degrees, Daejeon 13, Busan will be topping out at 17 degrees. Until Thursday, wide temperature gaps are expected, and for this weekend, clear skies will make a return. It's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
And that is News Center for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session is coming up.